How's it going?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this lovely Tuesday. It is 8/8/2023. As you can see behind me, I have been working on some of my crochet lately. There's also a dog bone there because Dot was sitting with me. Speaking of Dot, she is my special guest tonight. We know her. We love her. She's sometimes slightly annoying, but we love her nonetheless at the end of the day. Hi, Dot. How are you? Dot has nothing to add at this moment, but if she hears anyone barking outside, she will be barking as well, and then we'll have to get Dad to come get her. So I was putting on powder before the show today just to take a little bit of the Florida shine off me. If you've ever used non-pressed powder, it's horrible. It goes everywhere. It's like that Peruvian marching powder we were talking about yesterday. It's crazy. I can't recommend it. So if you have the option, get pressed powder, not loose powder, ever. So today I have for you a bunch of roller coaster rides. We have a bunch of hills. We have positives. We have negatives. It's going to be exciting. Hello, Unheil Snipes. Hello, Sir Ranko. Whisper. Appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for joining. Let's look at this first one. I thought this one was really good. It made me laugh, so I'm going to share it with you. The difference between positive and negative rights in a nutshell. Bernie Sanders tweeted, "Healthcare is a human right," blah, blah, blah. Okay, we know, old socialist. Kurt, libertarian, says, "So is gun ownership." Ooh, it's already getting spicy. CJ replies, "No one's trying to take your guns, boomer." Kurt responds, "I'm not worried about people taking my guns. I want the government to pay for my guns." Curb Stomp says, "It's the right to be able to own a gun if you want it. It's not the right to be given a gun." To which Kurt retorts smartly, "Oh, is that how rights work?" Because of course that's exactly how rights work. There are negative rights and there are positive rights. A positive right is something that we can't guarantee. A positive right is something like saying healthcare is a human right. Saying healthcare is a human right requires the labor of others. So you are compelling other people to do work for you. So it is not the right to be able to be given free healthcare. It is the right to be able to access healthcare if you need it. You can make that case. It's a more nuanced argument to be made there from Bernie Sanders. I thought that was really great, though, and I appreciate and we do love the Foundation for Economic Education. Also, just because I thought this was great, I shared this image earlier, aliens in a UFO, and they're saying to the person below, "We have come to experiment on you, plunder your resources, and enslave you forever." And the man on the ground says, "Oh, you're from the government," because that's exactly what they do, of course. If you've been following any of my rants about all of these ridiculous military operations and government co-signed undertakings like MK Ultra and the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, I've been complaining about this for a really long time. It's gross. It's weird. I can't believe the conspiracy theories aren't even keeping up enough with reality. But I digress. I just thought that was interesting in the light of the UFOs news coming out lately. Let me put this on, and then we'll get going. So the big news tonight. Joe Rogan said he would have Donald Trump on his show, which is fascinating. He had previously said that he wouldn't have Trump on for a conversation, which is really interesting. We'll see if this article talks at all about that. Let's see here. Before we get into that, I want to read you guys this story. This tweet from Historic Vids actually does not provide this man's correct full name, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's read his story. Douglas Brent was an American Navy petty officer who was taken captive during the Vietnam War. He was considered dumb by his captors, and they gave him the nickname The Stupid. He acted like an imbecile, refusing to speak, instead continuously humming a song. Throughout his imprisonment, he remained in a similar state to the extent that the Vietnamese captors believed he had some form of cognitive impairment. Upon his return to the United States after his release, Bent recited the names of about 256 fellow prisoners of war who were being searched for by the U.S. military. So now he knew where they were being held because he knew where he had been caught. Remarkably, Bent had memorized the names by associating them with the tune of Old MacDonald Had a Farm, which he had used previously to hum during his captivity. And my comment was, intensely creatively heroic. And Gianni jumped in and said his name is Doug Hegdahl. I had the honor of meeting him at SERE school in San Diego, May 1995. He could still recite the names at the drop of a hat. Hero, 100%. I'm not sure how they got his name wrong. I just thought this story was so amazing. His actual name is Doug Hegdahl. If you guys aren't familiar with him, look him up. He did amazing things. As you can see here, he's clearly very emaciated, but he pulled one of the greatest cons probably of the entire Vietnam War, and honestly, good for him. Don't make them like that anymore. So, on that side, we have heroism, and on the other side, we have leftism. Let's read this. This is from 2 days ago, August 6th, 2023. Relationship ending argument with my partner of 17 years. She stopped wearing a mask today. Quote, "Let me make my own decisions. Stop trying to control me when I gave her facts about the virus. I'm not trying to control. I'm trying to save everyone in this house. F everything. Thank you to everyone for your support. I'm floored. I couldn't keep up with all the warm and heartfelt comments and messages. I will try my best to get to every single one today. Now that the Nazis and Russian trolls have descended, I'm going to stop responding to this post. Again, thank you to those who shared their thoughts, compassion, humanity, and intelligence over the last few days. You're tremendous human beings. I appreciate you all." And Matt Walsh, being Matt Walsh, jumped in and said, "Thank you for sharing your story. So many members of my family aren't taking COVID seriously. My wife won't wear a mask, so I abandoned her on a desert island in the Pacific. The kids don't understand because they are also COVID deniers." That's right. His youngest children, twins, are like 4 months old at this point. I thought that comment was hilarious. Let's see what tweet Andy has cooked up for us tonight. Dun dun dun. Poll, should Joe Rogan host Donald Trump on JRE? 97.1% say yes. Dun, dun, dun. Let's read about it. Rogan would ask him some hard questions, would he? Because he did not ask Jack Dorsey hard questions the first time he had him on. But that's a great segue for our article about Joe Rogan having Donald Trump on. Previously, Joe said that he wouldn't bring Trump on, but let's see what's changed to change his tune. Very, very interesting setup. Once again, we always appreciate Joe Rogan. He is one of the biggest names in the brand. He is a trendsetter. He is the voice of the common man, and I respect what he has to say because he doesn't think more of himself than he really is. He's incredibly humble. He's very nice in person. I really enjoyed meeting him the couple times I did. He remembered me, which is one of the nicest things you can do when it comes to me, because I always felt like I was one who was just behind the scenes doing less glamorous things. Comedian and podcast host Joe Rogan has changed his position on having former President Donald Trump appear on his podcast, responding with maybe when asked when Trump would be on his show. Rogan, host of the Joe Rogan Experience, previously stated that the former president would never appear on his show, saying in 2022 that he was not interested in helping him. Rogan reaffirmed his stance last month, rejecting the possibility and saying, "I've said no every time." It's true, he did, but this time he changed his tune. However, during a recent episode of his podcast, his guest for the episode, Patrick Bet-David, asked Rogan, "When are you having Trump on?" "I don't know," Rogan responded. "Maybe. At a certain point in time, it's just like it would be interesting to hear his perspective on a lot of things." Rogan's podcast is one of the most popular podcasts in the world, having over 11 million listeners and trending on Spotify regularly. Last month, Trump and Rogan were spotted at a UFC 290 shaking hands, and the former president reportedly had members of his team seek a sit-down with Rogan, a report noted. Earlier this year, Trump stated that he would choose to vote for Trump. Trump stated that he would choose to vote for Trump in 2024 before opting to re-elect President Joe Biden. I have to say, Washington Examiner, I think what you meant to say was Joe Rogan stated that he would choose to vote for Trump in 2024. Let's check this headline. Yes, Rogan would vote for Trump in 2024 over Biden. Of course he would. Anyone would. Honestly, let's be real. If the option is between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, you're going to vote for Trump every time, obviously, because we've seen what Biden is capable of. He has criticized Biden and his administration's sideshow of diversity. I believe he called it an ish show, not actually a sideshow, but I'll let it slide because this is in fact a family show. The potential of Trump appearing on one of the most popular podcasts in the world comes after Trump's been indicted 3 times this year. The former president appeared in court on Thursday over his most recent indictment related to alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election and the January 6th Capitol protest. Very flimsy charges by all standards. Following Trump's latest court appearance, a poll stated that half the United States believes Trump used illegal or unconstitutional means to remain in power. Well, it didn't exactly work, did it? Around 29% said he attempted to stay in office by legal means, while 51% said his attempts were unconstitutional, and 20% said he did not plan to stay in office. So we can't get our story straight when it comes to Donald Trump. But maybe Joe Rogan would be able to help us with that. I love the idea of someone asking Trump super hard questions, just like I love the idea of anyone asking any public figure really hard questions. Like, I'm perfectly capable of defending my stance when asked, because I have rolled through my head many times the arguments against my positions, and I recognize that people are going to take issue with some of the things I say. And that's fine. You're welcome to disagree with me. We can have that conversation. In fact, if we don't have that conversation, what is even the point of free speech? So the entire point of having the First Amendment is to make sure that we can have these conversations and make sure that we get to the truth, because at the end of the day, the truth is the only thing that matters. And that's part of the reason that I so respect Joe Rogan, because he tends to go for the truth no matter what. And his common man appearance makes him much more likely to skip all the niceties and shear everything of all its ridiculous drama and all the frippery and all of the all the stuff that's unnecessary. Joe Rogan has no time for any of that. He knows it's important, and he knows how to bring it home, and he does know how to ask hard questions like we wished he had with Jack Dorsey the first time he had him on. All right, so that was super interesting. I'm really looking forward to Trump. If he does go on Joe Rogan's show, that would be interesting. He is going to be a heck of a lot taller than Joe Rogan, but they are friends. They have met multiple times in person. Booth says Judge Judy 2024. That is a lady who takes zero nonsense, and I truly respect her. She could be a little bit too much. I always thought she was kind of mean when I was forced to watch her when I was younger, but you know, as I age, I appreciate the approach that has no time for nonsense, and I see the appeal, so see what happens. All right, next up, we're going to look at a couple videos from a lady who went viral in California, just weeping over the absolute state of the state itself, and then we're going to listen to her. She kind of goes back on it. Like, she has a really interesting spin that she makes, and it makes me lose all sympathy that I might have once had for her. Now, Zed Jelani was in an argument with Matt Walsh talking about how people deserve empathy. We should really be reaching out to these people. I'm going to show you these two videos and you can tell me what you think. We'll start with this one.
I'm literally shaking right now. I was just getting groceries and I live in San Francisco and I never really feel fully safe. If you live in San Francisco, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And I just got groceries. I'm walking out of the store and this guy is walking past me and says, "Move, you stupid bitch," and he spits in my face. Spits all over my face. And then I say, "Excuse me, did you just spit in my face?"
I'm going to pause it here because he makes a threat to her that I don't think that YouTube would like. He threatens to sexually aggress on her. I think that's probably the nicest way of saying it. And he repeats it, which is really unfortunate. But she says that's what happened, which I would believe given the state of San Francisco. And Kyle Kashev points out it doesn't have to be this way, San Francisco, and he is correct. This is 100% the fault of the Californians who voted for the policies who made this all possible. She says, everyone's just walking by because they're like, I can't handle something else. In San Francisco, it's always something else. I don't even know why I'm posting this. If you live in San Francisco, do you feel like this all the time? I don't feel safe ever. It is literally never safe. It's better when it's daylight, but nighttime, no, not leaving my house. She does appear to be in actual distress, although she's also posting it to TikTok, so that makes me doubt. I don't know. Kanye Ron points out Walsh showed her videos where she mocks Christian billboards. I did hear that, but she actually has a follow-up video that we're going to watch next. And I'm not going to say she deserved this, but she clearly voted for these policies, and she feels a need now to virtue signal about this very thing. So let's pop on over here to Sam Parker's tweet. He says, she's a garden variety liar as well. It was a very well-groomed and well-dressed white man. Aside from being an obvious lie, she looks up and to the right, a well-known indicator of lying. I don't know if that's actually a well-known indicator of lying, but we're going to watch her now that she's a little bit more put together.
No, it was a very well-groomed and well-dressed white man. Also, this is incredibly racist, and you will be blocked now. Goodbye.
So someone had the audacity to ask her. He was black, wasn't he? And I will admit that that is somewhat racist. But at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters what shade of skin the homeless man who just spat in your face is. Do you? I don't care. It's a super, super serious problem. But what she has to say is a lie. And I think this commenter is correct. She's looking up and to the right. I don't know. Let's look up whether that's an indicator of lying. She clearly is very much in it for her personal appearance. I've seen this with ladies constantly. They make themselves up. They make themselves look good. They pick their angle really well. They're much better at choosing their angles than I am at choosing mine, which more power to them. But at the end of the day, if that's what you're going for, that's what you're going for. You're not going out there to be honest and serious. Let's see if looking up and to the right is a sign of lying. Let's ask all-knowing Google. Up and right. Can't type as always. A sign. It's because I'm going one-handed. Lying. Conventional wisdom has it that when people talk, the direction of their eyes movement reveals whether or not they're lying. A glance up and to the left supposedly means a person's telling the truth, whereas a glance to the upper right signals deceit. However, new research thoroughly debunks these notions. Okay, so it's commonly held that that's probably what happens when someone's lying. We can probably discard that, but I will tell you right now that the most likely person who spit in her face and threatened to physically aggress on her is probably not a sharply dressed, professionally attired white gentleman. Unfortunate but true. Probably just a homeless man. And I think she wanted to emphasize that he was not homeless, because you can't say things that might hurt the unhoused feelings. But I don't think a professional gentleman is going to make threats against you like this. I think that a professional gentleman is going to know what's going to happen to him if he makes a threat like that, and know his manners. I mean, that's part of living in a polite society, is this understanding that we're not going to be mean or rude to each other like that, and certainly to not make threats like that, because that's never a good thing. Let's see what people have to say. It's simple for her to prove it. I'm sure the store has a camera on the front door. That's a great point. Probably not a good idea to film yourself giving a spontaneous reaction. I'm just surprised she isn't also saying he yelled, "This is MAGA country." That's a great point. Yeah, because Harry Sisson, if you guys are familiar with him, he is paid for by the Biden administration. Let me show you this note he found, I think, on his car that Andy sent to me the other day. So let me pull this up real fast. Yeah, this is great. I love this so much. I just got some hate mail sent to my house by a Trump supporter that included a pretty threatening message. They said they're going to, quote, destroy me, and that I don't know who I'm messing with. They also said they know everything about me and will be coming to New York soon. No, of course, this doesn't worry me at all. MAGA is just crazy. Also, this Trump supporter clearly has a problem with spelling and grammar. They apparently know everything about me, but also get a lot of facts wrong in the letter. Additionally, they made the mistake of putting the city they sent the letter from on the envelope so we know where it came from. Not smart. I've turned the letter over to the police, signed a sworn statement. It's being looked into. Whether you agree with someone or not, threatening them isn't okay. Now, I do agree with that last line from him. I appreciate that for sure. I don't like the idea of threatening people over politics. I think it's stupid. I don't care which side you're on. But I did comment, "No one believes you, dog." I mean, Jussie, because it sounds exactly like what Jussie Smollett tried to do. And this would be the whole, why don't you just say they shouted MAGA country, or they signed it, "Welcome to MAGA country," or whatever. Absolute nonsense. There is such a market for this kind of attention-getting, victim-seeking status kind of BS. It's very tiresome. And yes, there absolutely were people on Twitter who were defending this poor woman who was saying that she had been threatened and spit on. Because yes, we can all agree that that's not a good place to be. Nobody likes the idea of people being threatened and physically aggressed on. That's not cool. But we're going to turn our attention now to Oakland. That was San Francisco. That was fun. I will say I do love San Diego. I'm really sorry what's happening in San Francisco and what's happening in Oakland. At least San Diego is a little bit sane. Still, last time we were there, we went to a big rally for freedom, which was really fun. Let's watch this video about Oakland. This is terribly sad. I think I'm going to turn on the sound. Yeah, let's see what we can do.
There's about 6 of them that comes in.
Welch's store was robbed just hours before we met him.
They went to our cash registers, and this is my office. But you'll see they went in, they tried to take a sledgehammer to it, tried to lift it, and he's going to figure out they aren't getting into that safe.
Welch says he loses 10% of his merchandise to theft. So common this year, he leaves his registers empty and open, tired of replacing them.
It's more brazen, sometimes more violent, I think, than what it used to be.
How long does it take for police to arrive?
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Is that typical?
That's probably fast.
I want to know.
Frustration has spilled over in community meetings. Anger often directed at leadership, like the newly elected district attorney, who has been on the job just 7 months.
It's unreal. I'm a black man born and raised in Oakland. When I walk out the house every day, I want to be safe. So if that calls for whoever commits the crime to be prosecuted.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's almost like prosecuting crime would be a positive thing for everyone, including the leaders of the NAACP, who have now declared an actual state of emergency in Oakland. And now, Casey is saying Oakland is Oakland. They're not serious about anything. Scott Adams did say recently that Oakland is just another place he would be avoiding during his time avoiding San Diego and San Francisco as well. But here we have a lifelong Oakland resident who is packing up and leaving because she's too scared to leave the house amid soaring crime and the NAACP calling for a state of emergency. Now, I am old enough to remember when the NAACP called a state of emergency over the state of Florida, if you guys remember that. absolute nonsense. We all knew it was nothing but a virtue signal. This actually sounds like it might be a real threat to them. Sucks to suck. What can I say? St. Miles says sucks for them. Meh. Yeah. Whoever to be prosecuted means to not let certain people off scot-free. Even the NAACP has every right to feel confident that when they go outside, they're going to be safe, because everyone does. Just like the woman in the video deserved to not be screamed at or spit at. Nobody deserves that. However, when you vote for certain things, you're going to get certain results, and then you're going to move to places like, Colorado, speaking from experience, and vote for the exact same effing things all over again, and then be shocked when crime spikes there too. Last time I was in Denver, I was like, holy cow, this is the San Francisco of the Rockies. It's exactly the same. The homeless people are everywhere. There's human debris on the streets. The graffiti is ridiculous, unrecognizable. I used to enjoy going to Denver. I used to like hanging out there. Last time I was there, I did not feel safe. And there were always streets that I didn't want to go down, especially not at night. Colfax Avenue was never good. But by the time I went there last time, it was all like that. And I was like, what is even the point? Why would you leave California if you are then going to go to another state and vote the exact same way you voted in California? This really raises my blood pressure because I watched it happen to my home state. And I lived there for 28, 29 years. Crazy, crazy, crazy downfall because of Californians moving there. And I say this with all sincerity to Floridans, you have to be careful of the New Yorkers who are moving to your state, and you better hope that they are moving because they care very much about freedom and because they like Ron DeSantis, because if they are just moving to escape New York, they will have the same effect on Florida that Californians had on Colorado. Yes, St. Miles, Denver has gotten bad. They legalized mushrooms. They legalized weed. It was all over crazy. It wasn't like open air drug markets that I saw, but it was really Portland light. Honestly, I did not enjoy my last time there. And I don't even want to look at the statistics there because we know that the cost of living is insanely high, just like in California. And we know the levels of crime are also insanely high, just like in California. So good for you guys. You got California light in Colorado. You destroyed my home state that I loved and cared about. Too bad. That's the way these things go. But let's read about Kristen Cook. Kristen Cook is leaving Oakland with her son because of rising crime. Said, I can't take it anymore. I got to the point where I was too scared to leave my house. No one should feel that way. Like I said, I don't care what side of the aisle you come down on. No one should feel unsafe leaving home. Let me mute my phone. I forgot that was on sound. Burglary rates are 41% up on last year, and robberies have increased more than 20% according to police data. Sexual abuse offenses are also up 12%. I'm just not going to say that word. I could say grape. Lots of people do, but we'll say sexual abuse. Police now tell homeowners to invest in steel braces to protect their properties and even encourage people to buy air horns to sound if they are targeted. You know what works better than an air horn for scaring away people who are hell-bent on your destruction? I'm not going to say it, but I will tell you that it makes a loud sound that would scare burglars too, and it will alert others that there is trouble. I don't know what to tell you. I chose my noisemaker differently. I will never have to choose an air horn because I'm never going to live in California or hopefully a similar state ever, because that is absolutely crazy. I can't believe that. The fact that I'm being pushed out because I'm emotionally can't take it anymore is horrible, she added. Burglary rates, right. The dire situation also highlighted earlier this month when the Oakland branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People called for a state of emergency in the city. This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. This is just since last year. I can imagine how high it is over 2020. Goodness gracious. A letter co-signed by Branch President Cynthia Adams said there is nothing compassionate or progressive about allowing criminal behavior to fester and rob Oakland residents of their basic rights to public safety. This is what I am constantly saying. This is not true compassion, okay? True compassion exerts both justice and mercy in equal measure and seeks to bring people to justice who deserve it and give mercy where it's due. Giving mercy to criminals is bringing punishment on innocent people. Something Michael Knowles used to say, and I don't know where he got it from, but it's 100% true. When you don't punish offenders, you are punishing the innocent, and that's exactly what it sounds like is happening in Oakland. Just wanted to get that out of the way. Well, let's see. The NAACP's letter partly blamed the Defund the Police movement and the soft touch district attorney for rising crime. Adams pleaded with local officials to come together to tackle the mounting public safety issues in the city. She penned the letter with Bishop Bob Jackson of the Acts Full Gospel Church. It is not racist or unkind to want to be safe from crime. No one should live in fear in our city, they wrote. Of course. And no one was saying there was anything to do with race. They shouldn't even have to make this argument. Making the simple blanket statement, I deserve to live free of fear. I deserve to be able to go outside my house and not be afraid of getting robbed, carjacked, stabbed, or sexually abused is nothing to do with race and everything to do with an actual human right to being able to exist peacefully without bothering anybody else. That's something that used to be exceedingly common in this country and appears to be vanishing in these cities. But we know how these blue cities roll. It just is so interesting to hear the NAACP say this about enforcing crime measures. The neighbor of a recent murder victim said she was told by police to invest in steel braces for her front door. Tony Bird, whose neighbor Dave Schneider was shot dead while tending to his lawn, already has locked a front gate and 5 security cameras. Oh my gosh, that's awful. So there's a case of a person who was just going about his business who was unfairly cut down by shocking levels of crime in a city that, let's be honest, we all know, I know, they voted for this. At the end of the day, it's still really hard to watch. We can but hope that they will come to their senses and start to realize that what they're voting for is causing this. There is a direct line. One of the things I constantly thought in Colorado, watching Californians move into my state and descend and pump up the price of homes and increase crime and everything, was that they never made the connection between what they did on election day and what happened over the course of the rest of the year. I'm convinced that's the case here too. Oakland City Councilman Kevin Jenkins said, absolutely devastated. The fact that someone could just be gardening and be murdered at their own home. The message to Oaklanders, oh, you have to be careful gardening or washing your car, checking the mail is absolutely insane. Neighbors aren't having it anymore. We are not going to be prisoners in our own communities. We have to fight back against those who are doing harm in our community. You should fight back against the leaders who are allowing this to happen, and you should vote accordingly. You should fight back at the ballot box and remove these people with prejudice because they're doing this to you and you are doing it to yourself. You need to think about it. Bird, who moved to the city 2.5 years ago, said she plans to stay in Oakland and fight to overturn the crime wave. Yes, so there are 2 ways you can go. You can either plan to stay where you are and try to fix the problem where you're at, where you are, grammatically correct, or you can leave. People are choosing to do both. California is the most fled from state. No, it's New York. New York is the state from which most residents have fled, I think, to Florida, mostly. And then I think California is a close second. I'm not looking for a perfect safe place, she told CNN. I'm looking for a place where the elderly, women, and children aren't targeted. She's not asking an awful lot, is she? Well, I guess that wouldn't be New York, would it? I think we can all agree that that needs to change, and so I feel like it will change, and that's why I'm staying. Well, that's shockingly optimistic. Good for you. The NAACP letter also takes aim at Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price and anti-police rhetoric like the defund the police movement, which they wrote has created a heyday for Oakland criminals and created a doom loop as the city continues to spiral downward. Yes, 100%. The NAACP wrote, failed leadership, including the movement to defund the police, our district attorney's unwillingness to charge and prosecute people who murder and commit life-threatening serious crimes, and the proliferation of anti-police rhetoric have created a heyday for Oakland criminals. If there are no consequences for committing crime in Oakland, crime will continue to soar. Hey, man, I'm just glad that they're realizing these things now. Now they can make changes to try to fix the problem, but it might be too late. I hope for their sake it's not. Price's officer responded to the accusation, saying the DA is disappointed that a great African-American pastor and a great African-American organization would take a false narrative on such an important matter. I'm going to swear, okay? Holy shit, this is their city leadership. And she's immediately bringing in race and railing at the NAACP because the NAACP has had it with crime in their city. They don't care the shade of the person under the balaclava. They care about the crime being committed, and their leadership is oblivious and refuses to wake up. They need to vote those MFs out immediately. We would expect more from Bishop Bob Jackson and the Oakland chapter of the NAACP, Price's office said. Lady, you are about to get fact-checked into oblivion. I think they need to recall her stat. Police warned about an uptick in home invasion robberies, including cases of robbers armed with guns kicking down doors before threatening homeowners and stealing their belongings. Oakland Police Department said some of the worst hit areas have been Laurel North Hills, Joaquin Miller, and the greater San Antonio area. Last year, then Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf admitted efforts to defund her city's police department went too far after it saw violent crime surge to levels not seen in 15 years, following the movement's introduction in the summer of 2020. This is directly linked to Black Lives Matter. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind that the NAACP is not BLM, okay? Because I, at the end of the day, do not believe that BLM had much participation by actual African-American activists at all. I think it was mostly middle-aged, middle-income, liberal white women, because this tends to be the case with all of this stuff. But, holy cow, this is wild to me. Her comments came after the city council passed a resolution 2021 to defund its police department by $17 million, despite a 90% increase in murders. A move criticized by Oakland Police Chief LaRon Armstrong, who said at the time that crime is out of control in the city. You don't say. You don't say. And then the rest of the article is just showing the violent crime happening in Oakland. This is wild to me. And for their city leadership to be saying stuff like this, like, how dare a prominent black organization be saying something like this? We expect better from them than adopting this false narrative about crime. These are the crime stats, lady. Oh my gosh, they need to get rid of that woman because she is not going to fix any of their problems. Yikes. Whew, okay, well, I knew that some of these were really going to raise my blood pressure, and that one sure did, because I actually do feel bad for these people. I'm not one of those people. I get a little salty on Twitter, but I'm not one of those people at the end of the day who can just be like, I don't care. They deserve it. It's not a big deal. It doesn't affect me. Let them vote how they want. Let them eat cake. I don't care what happens to them. This is exactly what they wanted. Every person deserves to be able to go outside of their house and just chill. You deserve to be able to go out in a first effing world country. I'm censoring myself because we are, after all, a family show. And garden. You deserve to be able to get your mail in peace. You deserve to not have to worry about your car being stolen every single day. And yeah, you deserve the right to not be threatened with some kind of violent, heinous act. That's not asking too much. It's really not. But apparently in blue cities, they don't seem to care too much about actually making positive changes, because if they did, they would vote accordingly. Hopefully this will be the red pill they need. Now, for some positive news. This is from Libs of TikTok. She has her own little YouTube or her own little blogspot page, and I found this article that summarizes what she found yesterday. Black supremacist teacher with history of racist tweets is fired after bragging that she wouldn't get fired. Oh no, karma. Hate to see it. Is it raining? I can't tell. No, it's not. Yesterday, I came across some disturbing posts on social media. A woman who claimed to be a teacher in Texas went on an insane anti-white racist tirade after finding out her sister was sleeping with a white man. To add to that, she had the words black supremacist in her Twitter bio. The content was horrific, but the fact that she was a teacher made it 1,000 times worse. In her messages, she had called upon her boyfriend to come end this white man for her. She actually used the word that starts with K. Yeah, she was calling for actual violence against a specific person. I posted a video compiling her tweets and videos to Twitter. It quickly went viral because the content was just so shocking. Users immediately went to work. Oh no, it's going to make me sign in. No, don't make me sign in. Dang it. Users immediately went to work trying to identify where this woman teaches. The teacher, Claire Kyle, was not worried in the slightest about losing her job, and spent her first day back at school taunting users on social media. First day of school, walking through the halls while Twitter thinks they can take my job from me. Call me every name under the sun, but y'all will never be able to call me unemployed. Psych. Sorry. Just kidding. Yeah, so she removed her entire social media footprint, So a bunch of 8-year-old white kids were being educated by a black supremacist who proudly wrote on social media that I love being racist. Young, innocent, impressionable kids should not be in that environment. She said, I enjoy being racist. I'm never changing. She said that on the 6th of August. Woo! St. Miles says, OMG, Liz is using the F word. Andy, stand by with chocolates. I'm probably a little hormonal. I think it's making me a little angrier than usual, but we're going to work with it. It's good for something. We're going to put it to good use. Claire Kyle eventually deleted her account, but not before reminding us that she will be for sure not be fired because she's a good teacher and the school board has her back. Yes, y'all have found my job. They told me to delete the post, but my job is safe since I did not directly wish harm on all white people. You wished it on one very specific white person, and you made a very specific threat, and you tried to involve someone else. Oh, that was easy. Good for me. I figured out how it works. Gosh, sorry, guys. She'll not be fired because she's a good teacher. Being a great teacher pays off very well when they know your true self. Just talk to the school board and my job is safe. Cry in the corner. I told them it was a joke and they know I'm not racist, so have fun. But lady, you just said that you like being racist. It gives you great joy. This is the kind of take that I'm not at home to, and I'm going to read this from Sir Ranko. Really frustrating. I'm glad she got fired, but this is a result of critical race theory and she's not the only one poisoned. Correct. You are entirely correct. So that take is not incorrect. What I was irritated with was the conservative, wishy-washy, squishy take that, oh, this is actually cancel culture. We can't do this. This lady was in charge of 8-year-old children and actively calling death on white people, people of a certain demographic, which she most assuredly taught in her classes. I don't call that cancel culture. I call that keeping kids safe. Anyway, Texas elementary teacher who made a series of racist anti-white tweets, including wanting to kill someone for being white, has been fired and is not eligible for rehire. Mesquite ISD. At approximately 4 p.m. yesterday, Mesquite ISD became aware of a series of alarming racist statements posted to the Twitter account of a teacher at Thompson Elementary. Upon learning of the situation, our personnel staff began an immediate investigation. As of this morning, the employee is no longer part of the ISD organization and is not eligible for rehire. Due to privacy restrictions, we cannot comment on the details of personnel matters. Nevertheless, this highly offensive statements posted on her Twitter account do not reflect the values and standards of Mesquite ISD, and the district condemns them in the strongest terms. Good, you should have been aware of what she was doing before she got hired. If in fact she was saying anything like this before she got hired. It's possible that she was radicalized after the fact, but she seems like somebody who was really set in her ways right from the beginning. So it seems like the school should never have hired her in the first place, should have done a more thorough background. It was eventually discovered she worked as a first grade teacher in Thompson Elementary School in Mesquite, Texas. Then a 6-year-old Google review came to light when a former student claimed she was bullied for being white. This was not looking good for Thompson Elementary. Wow, this school sucks because I was bullied there, and so was my brother because we were white. Jeez. Sarenko says, this isn't cancel culture. It's ripping out the weeds, suffocating the future generations. I think that's a good way of putting it. I feel like it's worse that she directly targeted a specific person. Of course, I think so too. In fact, we're going to read the New York Times take on a song that is commonly sung in South Africa that was brought back by I think the name of the party is EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters, so you already know the left's on their side. Let's read just a little bit of this because it's in a similar vein. I said, Julius Malema, leader of South Africa's Economic Freedom Fighters, sounds very leftist, doesn't it? Told members that, quote, they must not be afraid to, and that is a revolutionary act. Most recently, Malema made waves by leading the old South African song, The Boer. This is the New York Times explainer if you missed it. So they give the title of the song. Song fuels backlash in South Africa and U.S. I want you to listen closely to what they have to say about this. Because the issue isn't the song or the leader of this radical revolutionary group. It is, in fact, the right wing's response to it, as it always is. Right-wing commenters claim that an old anti-apartheid song is a call to anti-white violence, but historians and the left-wing politician who embraces it, that would be Julius Malema, say it should not be taken literally. Now, I think my pets might be about to fight, so I might have to throw a box at them or something. I'm going to read this for you guys. Username says, why do I feel like the New York Times is going to have positive things to say about this? You're correct. Let's get into it. Adrian says, I lived in South Africa for a summer. It is wild, dangerous, and deeply racist. Yes. Yes, one of the 3 people who took my place at Timcast was actually from South Africa, and I kind of would like to talk to him about this because I'm really curious what it's like. Elon Musk had something to say about it too, but that's in the New York Times article. Let's read that now. The political rally was winding down when the brash leader of a leftist South African party grabbed the microphone and began to stomp and chant. Thousands of supporters joined in, and when he reached the climax, they pointed their fingers in the air like guns. You mean like a Sieg Heil type thing? Really curious how that looked, actually, New York Times. Exterminate the Boer, Julius Malema chanted, referring to white farmers. The crowd in the stadium in Johannesburg on Saturday roared back in approval. A video clip of that moment shot across the internet and was seized upon by some Americans on the far right who said it was a call to violence. That notion really took off when Elon Musk, the South African-born billionaire who left the country as a teenager, chimed in. They are openly pushing for genocide of white people in South Africa. Mr. Musk, listen to this. Mr. Musk, who is white, wrote on Monday on Twitter, the platform he now controls. He's white, he's a billionaire, and he controls the mode of dialogue, says the New York Times. Whose side does it sound like they're on right now? Does it sound like they're on the poor, innocent people who are farming in South Africa's side? Nah, of course not. In recent years, it gets even better. People on the right in South Africa and the United States, including former President Donald J. Trump, have seized on attacks on white farmers to make false claims that there have been mass killings. Now, I don't know if that's true or false, but I'm willing to bet my last dollar that the New York Times knows how many white farmers have been targeted in racist killings in South Africa, and they are more than happy to cover up that number because it does not jive with their agenda. Mr. Malema, honorable man, I'm sure, leads the Economic Freedom Fighters, a party that advocates taking white-owned lands to give to black South Africans. Well, that sounds like something that the New York Times would be right on board with, doesn't it? That sounds like reparations. Interesting. This has made his embrace of the chant all the more disturbing to some whites. What a bunch of dummies, right? Despite the words, the song should not be taken as a literal call to violence, according to Mr. Malema and veterans and historians of the anti-apartheid struggle. It has been around for decades, one of many battle cries of the anti-apartheid movement that remain a defining feature of the country's political culture. Reading this story also was super bad for my blood pressure, and I'm trying to keep that under control because I'm pregnant right now. But I had to read it for you guys because I feel like this really gets glossed over when people talk about this. Now, I will say, I'm not South African. I don't know about all the politics down there, but this is a very clear call to violence from Julius Malema. And it sounds to me just like the New York Times is fully on board with him because the name of his party is, and I quote, Economic Freedom Fighters. Sounds like the People's Republic of North Korea, doesn't it? Sounds like really good stuff. I made a very salty comment after that. It is in no way an exaggeration to say that the American media is joyfully on board with white genocide. Really soak in those last lines in the second image. Are they siding with a leader who tells his followers not to be afraid to murder? Clearly, this is what they, the American media, truly believe. And I stand by my statement because Julius Malema embodies a lot of left-wing ideals that the American left would like to bring here. Adrian says the farmers should all come here seeking asylum and leave them all there to starve. I agree. 100%. Serenko says deep breath lids. This story is crazy to me. It's truly crazy. And as somebody who's pregnant right now, this kind of thing is really hard to read, right? My child will be white. Oh no, it's the end of the world. How dare they? My child will be Scottish, Irish, French, German, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Basically a white mutt. He'll be great. Be just like me and the rest of my family and Andy's family. And the true mark of the melting pot that is the U.S. And I worry about the future that they're going into. You know, I have a hard time with this, but luckily they're going to be super highly opinionated and loudmouthed and hopefully capable of defending themselves, so it should be just fine. But it still worries me at the end of the day. I really don't like it. This is not good stuff. Adrian says, in Sea Point, South Africa, I was told you are white, don't go out at night. I couldn't stop at stop signs or lights for fear that I would be carjacked and abused. It is stunning, but an ish hole. There we go. Mike says, hi all, I'm a liberal Democrat. I love chatting with people who have different political beliefs. Hope you all are doing well. I'm glad that you joined us. I hope you're enjoying this reading of the New York Times. And if you would like, please in the chat, feel free to defend what they said, because it really actually sounds like they're defending the genocide of groups of people in South Africa. And I really don't like that. Let's look up what Julius Malema had to say when he got in huge trouble for saying this about don't be afraid to. I'm not scared of death. Okay. Blah. I'm not scared of. Yes, I'm not scared of killing. Yeah, he has no problem with being taken to court over this. He will not retract his words, found to constitute something. Killing is a, quote, revolutionary act. So, this is the party leader that the New York Times is right on board with, and I have a hard time with that. I find that deeply disturbing. Now, my sister is much further right than I am, to a degree that I've never found wholly reasonable or wholesome. And I've always had a hard time with a lot of the rhetoric about how, they're going to come after white people, etc. It always sounded like a lot of alarmist nonsense, a lot of crazy times. And now I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the New York Times literally singing the praises of this left-wing leader. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? You're making the people on the furthest possible fringes of the right wing, you're proving them correct. And I don't like that, because I think those people are a little bit crazy, and I don't really like that at all. Adrian says, flee, F-E-L-A, F-L-E-A for your lives. She can't spell it. I can't either. We are all struggling with the word flee. Holy cow. Sorenko says, no thanks, I don't like fleas. Adrian, sorry, I couldn't resist. For sure. It's all good. You're allowed to make mistakes and typos. I promise a typo in every twit. Okay, so I'll wrap up with this last story that really raised my blood pressure too, and then you guys can tell me what you think. Republicans slammed President Biden for failing Gold Star families who shared heartbreaking testimony after losing loved ones during the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. Quote, blood is on his hands. I don't pray very much, but I do sincerely and deeply hope that at the end of the day, the only thing that Joe Biden is remembered for is his despicable, disgusting cowardice when it came to Afghanistan. Let's read a little bit about that. The families of the 13 U.S. service members killed in Kabul, Afghanistan, shared their heartbreaking stories during a public forum Monday. We can never get these men and women back, and that blood is on President Biden's hands, Senator Johnny Ernst told DailyMail.com. Representative Mike Waltz added, the heartbreak and anger over the lack of answers from the Biden administration is palpable. Yes, it's actually disgusting. If you guys have watched any of this video, it leaves me speechless. It's just the worst thing you can imagine. Like, yeah, it makes me really, really furious because, as I said, I had a brother who was in the military who's now, done with that. And then I have a brother who's currently in the military. And this kind of stuff really gets my goat because it could have been them, right? It could have been their friends. And it's just something that really hits close to home, which I'm sure makes me more emotional probably than most. But I will say Ben Shapiro is somebody who has never served in the military. And I don't think has any family members in the military, although I think his grandparents served. Was of the same mind, furious about this, saying the most strongly worded things he ever says because he also has a family-friendly show. Military families are demanding Biden resign after the botched Afghanistan exit. Oh, good. Dot found her toy. Hopefully she'll start squeaking. To this day, not one administration official has been fired or resigned for the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, despite the damning after-action report and accounts of those who were on the ground during the Abbey Gate attack. These families deserve answers, and Republicans in Congress are committed to delivering for them. They effing better. The Republicans owe it to these poor families of these service members to come up with some actual answers and to demand accountability from the people who did this. Because if you'll recall, Jen Psaki was out there saying, actually, we've tried everything in our power to get in touch with everybody who's there in Afghanistan. We've reached out to them in every way we know how. We've given all these people all the available options. Some of them just don't want to come home at the end of the day. That's on them, not us. She now has a gig at MSNBC. Not punished for that lie. None of these generals were held accountable. President Biden certainly never was. President Biden still has not really truly addressed this and probably never will, because this makes him look so bad. And I am at least grateful that his approval rating started to tank immediately after this. I think that's fair. Yeah. Mike says, I'm happy we're out of there finally. I am too, but at what cost? 100% a case to be made that we could have and should have done this better. We lost 13 people, 13 American citizens who deserved to come home in one piece. This was completely unforced error on the Biden administration's part. And what's more, when we decided to strike back after we left Afghanistan, we killed 7 innocent Afghanis on the ground, including children, which is just also unbelievably disturbing. And that's not even actually the worst part. I didn't even pull this one up, but holy crap, it made me want to bang my head against the wall. But I'll read it to you guys, and you can kind of break down what's going on here. Unreceived, billion, not being able to spell again. U.S. taxpayers may be funding the Taliban. Let's see the news. I know there's news stories about this. Yes. The Biden administration has given $2.35 billion to the Taliban since the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Damning report reveals huge wastes in taxpayer funds after 20 years in Afghanistan. Cherry on the cake. Ready to call it a day. Let's impeach this man. Get him out of office. Holy cow. What are we doing? All he did was murder a dozen or so Americans and 7 innocent Afghani children, and also squander our actual interests in Ukraine, which I think we can safely say would not have been an issue if Hunter hadn't been entangled with that country. We're literally in a war right now, I think at least partly because of Hunter's involvement with the country, and that's kind of hard to disprove as we get more and more evidence about that. It's becoming very clear that that's part of the reason that we are there in that country. But, oh, holy cow, it's exhausting. It really is. Texas Rangers. Hi, Lydia's and Andy. Hello, Texas Rangers. Appreciate that. Poor Paparinos. R.I.P. I completely agree. I think they got some of those dogs out, but I don't remember. We lost Americans. We lost American dogs, military dogs, and we lost or caused the loss of 7 Afghani children. And I actually have a problem with that because I've been pro-life my entire life. It's very important to me that we hold human life in high regard. It means that we look after American citizens who are fighting for us, and we also look after innocent civilians who live in other countries. But let's see. 2 Steps says, in a way, it's Trump's fault, but he gave like 8 ways to prevent it. The only problem is it would have made him look like an idiot, so he sacrificed people to avoid it. And then I'm not sure if you're referring to Biden or Trump. Not sure which way to go. That was a Trump trap, which he recognized he fell into anyway because he's not actually in charge. Yes, and I would like to highlight, in retrospect, that the top military brass actively chose to lie to President Trump about how many troops were on the ground in countries like Afghanistan. I don't remember if Afghanistan was actually one of those countries, but the highest official in the land was actively lied to by the people who directly answered to him. That's disgusting too. But as far as I'm concerned, what happened in Afghanistan, I am laying solely at the feet of Democrats, specifically the Biden administration, and I want them to be held accountable. That would be great. That would make me feel a lot better. It would make me feel so much better if nothing like that ever happened again. But I lack all confidence in this institution at all at this point, so we'll see what happens going forward. All right, you guys, I feel like I have regained somewhat of my composure. Hopefully you all are feeling very calm and soothed by the fact that that teacher got fired, by the fact that people are waking up to what's happening in Oakland, by the fact that Joe Rogan might have Donald Trump on. That'd be fun. We'll see what happens. Dot is here. She's being a very calming presence. She's crashed out like she's dead. She's not actually. She was just trying to get me to play with her. Although she seems to sense that I am busy. But I'm wrapping it up now. I will see you all tomorrow when I'm sure we have much more delightful things to talk about than we had today. Twitter can really make you angry if you are not careful about how you use it. So my advice for you guys tonight is to be careful about how you use Twitter. Make sure that you go outside, spend plenty of time with your loved ones and your pets if you have them. I always encourage people to have pets. They're very, very good for your mental health, and you might actually be saving their lives too. All right, you guys, thank you, Mike, for joining us. I know it was kind of out of your field of political range. Happy to have you here in any case. I will argue with you happily. Don't really take it personally. It's not a big deal. I've been come after in many different ways. Until tomorrow, stay safe, stay well, stay out of Target. Until next time, bye guys. How's it going?